See, this is my life. It always will be. There's nothing else. Just us. And the cameras. And those wonderful people out there in the dark.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Out There in the Dark. My name is Tom Alexander, and with me, as always, is my friend and colleague, Mr. Azed Majid.
Aw, friend first. I like that.
Always.
Yeah. Well, good to see you, Tom.
You too.
Yeah.
You too. We had a great episode, our last episode about the Hotel Confidential.
Yeah, I
art
feel
exhibit
like,
was fantastic.
We were like treated like celebrities.
Yeah, huge numbers.
Groupies.
Groupies.
No groupies, no.
Yeah, and Trump is suing us. So, yeah. Today's a pretty cool episode. We're going back to our forgotten masterpieces.
Yes, we have this ongoing series, sort of loose series whenever we think of it, called Criminally Forgotten Movies. And so we have chosen
2 movies.
Yeah.
And let's start with so Azed chose one and I chose the other.
Right.
Azed, let's start with yours.
Okay, so the one I chose is called Chilly Scenes of Winter. And it's, I think it's a 1981 or 1980 movie. Hang on one sec. Actually, it's 1979. It's a movie by a woman named Joan Micklin Silver, who was kind of like an up-and-coming early female director at the time.
Kind of the 70s indie scene.
There was a kind of a scene happening in New York with people like Susan Seidelman and her, Joan Micklin Silver, and
Jim Jarmusch was in that group.
I'm just talking about for the women, though,
of
right?
Course.
Yeah, and there was Nancy Savoca, right?
Oh, right.
And
yeah.
really, you could almost call it like a bit of a renaissance of female filmmakers from that period. Anyway, Joan Micklin Silver didn't do a lot of movies, but she did this one, and this one is. Okay, so this has been a favorite of mine since I was a kid, like a teenager when I saw it. And there's just something about this movie. It's basically a love story, a romance, but it's unique because it's told from the perspective of the male character, played by John Hurd, who's very attractive in this movie. He's young and kind of, laid back and kind of, you could see the hippie in him.
If our listeners not quite sure who John Hurd is, he's Macaulay Culkin's dad in Home Alone.
Exactly, yeah.
It's his biggest movie.
So you want to,
but he's done a lot of indie films.
You go back and watch this movie, you go this guy was kind of like a cool underground dude, right?
He was great in Sharknado too.
Right. Well, he was in Joan Micklin Silver's previous film, which was also similarly themed in some ways, called
Between the Lines?
Between the Lines, exactly, which is about an underground newspaper in New York. But this one is based on a novel by a writer, Anne Beatts, who I believe wrote for, I can't remember, but she was kind of a well-known in the Joyce.
Yeah, I think the novel was
Joyce Carol
big.
Oates or something
Exactly.
like that, right? And it's really a movie about this guy Charles who is just this regular kind of civil servant, kind of floating. Life is kind of like dull and meaningless. And you realize that he's just lost this woman who has gone back to her husband after he had dated her while she was on a break, right? And the movie is basically dealing with his life, his obsession with her, his inability to kind of let go because he feels like she still loves him. And you also get to know his mom, who's played by the amazing Gloria Graham.
Great Gloria Graham.
I think that was their last movie, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
But beautiful performance as a kind of a lunatic mother who's benign but crazy, and Kenneth McMillan is the stepdad, and Peter Riegert is his like best friend, who is like a jacket salesman who's lost his job, and he's moved in with Charles now because Charles has his own house, was deeded to him by his grandmother. So it's really a kind of 60s burnout movie, right? This is really about people who like really were hippies and into the whole underground thing, and they're lost now. You know, these people are lost. They can't really function properly, and if they do, it's like the way she shows him at work, it's like a deadening.
Yeah. He's got a bottle of vodka in the desk.
Yeah, and like he's just going through the motions, right? And he's trying to be like basically a responsible person, but it's this woman that he meets, Laura, right? Played by someone who we just lost recently. One of my favorite like sort of character actors, Mary Beth Hurt. And she's just amazing in this movie, because you have to feel a similar kind of obsession with her a little bit as a viewer. You have to understand sort of what it is he finds so attractive.
It's kind of a proto pixie dream girl kind of trope.
She's
in later rom-coms.
Exactly. She's a bit of a pixie, she's very cute, but she's also really smart and very emotionally like and honest and, so, you understand it, and you also understand it's interesting because I don't know, you tell me what you think, but the main thrust of the movie for me is always sort of rode this line between Charles as, a romantic hero who's just holding out for the woman he loves and, can't let go, and, Charles the stalker, right? So there's a kind of balancing between those two things, which I really like in the movie. Anyway, I'm interested to know what you think.
Yeah, it's funny. I think I liked it as much as you do. I had seen it way back in probably my 20s or so.
Right.
Rewatching it last week, I loved it, but it's a little. What's great about the movie is, first of all, structurally the way it's not told in a linear story.
It's exactly.
It flashes back from a year later when Charles is still not over his breakup.
Right. It's a year later. That's
Laura, right?
Yeah, with Laura, yeah.
And it goes back to when they first met at work and developed their relationship. And then she separated from her husband, and then she moves in with Charles for a few months. And then she leaves him to go back to her husband.
Yeah. And there's a daughter, right?
Yeah.
There's a little daughter too.
Yeah. And the rom-com part of it was really complicated because, I think only a female filmmaker like Joan Micklin Silver could have done this.
Right.
Because he's kind of a scumbag.
Kind of.
He kind of is.
Yeah.
But because he's like a charming narcissist.
Sort of. Yeah.
I've got some evidence.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
to that. Because I took notes. I got notes. I got binders. Because for me, and I think you see it a little differently, but for me, right out of the get-go, there's something off with this guy. He becomes immediately fixated on her after meeting her for like 2 seconds.
Mm.
And you're not sure why. Sure, she's attractive, she's funny, she's cool, and you can see why she likes him. But the relationship is off balance right from the beginning. He's clearly obsessed with her right at the beginning,
and she knows it.
And she knows it.
Yeah.
And she uses it a little bit, which is not cool. But at the same time, she's in an extremely vulnerable position.
Yeah.
She's really confused about her marriage, and the husband character is not abusive or a jerk. It's just it's just tired of it.
He's just a guy named Ox.
He's a guy named Ox.
He has a nickname, was Ox in high school.
But then the stalking for a year is pretty disturbing, and the scenes where they break up are really kind of hard to watch.
Yeah,
he loses it.
Yeah, he loses it completely.
And at one point, he says, "I'm going to beat the shit out of you,"
yeah.
and then he backs up right away and he says, "Oh, I didn't mean it." And so you can see how that's really.
No, he goes. I think okay. So I think you're kind of reading it a little bit.
Well, let me finish.
Okay.
Because you you don't dislike him for that because just the way it's performed and the way it's written and the way he reels it back. But unless I miss something, there's also a part where he says something like I could rape you.
He does, yeah.
And I think this script today would be like really tough to watch, but in the film, the way it's handled by Joan Micklin Silver and the actors, it's made kind of palatable because he is losing it so much, and he doesn't do, besides those two things, he doesn't do anything to her. Although I would say when there's a very funny scene where him and Peter Riegert, and Riegert's great.
He's
of course.
amazing.
He's a god.
Movie, yeah.
Pretend to be a gay couple looking for a home and end up
because her husband sells A-frames.
Yeah.
Right.
It's very late 70s look.
Yeah. And then he takes them back to their place to show him his A-frame, and of course they get to, it's all about him seeing Laura, right?
Yeah. So and that's what I mean by a charming narcissist with this guy. He's very charming.
Yeah.
We've all kind of known people like him, but the way he falls for her so quickly,
yeah,
kind of like an old-fashioned screwball comedy.
It does have that element to it for sure.
Yeah.
But
it gets dark.
Yeah.
But it gets dark very contextually, and it's never judgmental. That's the amazing thing about Joan Micklin Silver work. Even though John Hurt is acting like kind of a nut.
Yeah.
And is way too obsessed with her. To the stalking is really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I think. She writes him and directs him so pleasantly.
Yeah, and with a lot of understanding.
A lot of understanding and a lot of empathy.
I think, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't disagree with what you're saying there for the most part. This is what I was saying, is he rides the kind of balance between,
yes,
just a guy in love, can't let go, and, a dangerous person. And maybe the point being that in all of us, there's that danger of blurring that boundary, right? I think what you're saying is echoed throughout the movie, right? By all the different characters. He takes his sister over, they go to, he
That's
drives
a great
over.
relationship too, by the way.
Yeah,
the mother,
he takes his sister over and starts telling to where Laura's A-frame is, and he's parked there in the kind of far away in the driveway. It's got a big long driveway, and he starts like telling his sister like all this stuff about, this is where Laura lives with her husband and blah blah blah, and she goes immediately, do you do this often? And he goes, not really. And then she goes, does she know you doing this? And he goes, I hope not. And then she just goes, can we go home, please? And he goes like, yeah, all right, but because it's sort of like it's indicated in the movie constantly that there's something like off about him. Peter Riegert's always saying like, what, just go to her house, find out if she's going to come back, and whatever. But so everybody knows about his obsession.
Well, that's what's interesting too, is that most people, and certainly in movies, most stalkers do it quietly and nobody knows. But he so normalizes it. Like for him, this is just his life.
Well, this is
and
why
he doesn't hide it.
This is why I think what elevates, this story a little bit outside of the typical creepy stalker guy is, what does she represent for him, right? He's so many references to the 60s in this movie. Like there's the whole Janis Joplin "Get It While You Can" thing, right? Yeah. And the Woodstock conversation they have, and stuff. So there's really a kind of there's this concept called, the impossible object or the object of desire, right? He sees her as his savior, right? Like that she's going to give his life complete meaning and joy and everything that he's missing, right? And everything that he's been missing since, probably, the 60s, when things seemed promising and things weren't so awful, right? Yeah. So there's in this relationship, I think it's quite a metaphor for the lost ideals of the 60s.
Yeah,
right?
Because again, like I said, he falls for her. It's not just that he falls for her right away. He becomes obsessed with her right away.
He asks her to marry him right away.
Yeah, and so the question is it really about her?
Exactly, right.
And I don't think it is. I think it's about him. And there's a great line in the movie that I think really illustrates that. Because one of the gags in the film is that when he goes back to her apartment after she'd separated from her husband. There's like no furniture.
Right.
And there's nowhere to sit because there's no chair. So he buys her a chair.
Yeah.
And then when she moves into his place, she brings the chair as well. And the chair becomes a little piece of conversation where it's like, you bought me this chair, I bought this chair.
Yeah.
And then when they're fighting and they're breaking up, he says to her, I didn't buy this chair for you. I bought it for me. And
Well,
I think that is the key to this film, because he's obsessed with her, not because of who she is, but because of who he is.
Right.
And why is that? And I think that has a lot to do with his mother.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely there's those connections. You're just a little bit off, though. It's not that he doesn't do that in that scene. It's in a flashback when she makes him this dessert, chocolate dessert, and they're sitting on the floor. And he makes a joke out of it because he says, you like your chair? And she goes, I love it. And he goes, well, I didn't buy it for you. And she goes, oh, really? And he goes, no, I bought it for me. You won't come live with me, so I have to come over here all the time. So it's my chair. And she goes, no, it's my chair. Okay. And then they go back and forth. It's actually a very cute scene. Okay. Right? And then they both run for the chair, right?
Yeah.
But in the underlying what you're saying, I think is there. Yeah, I think you're right.
I made notes.
You know, I agree. I've watched this movie like at least a dozen times in my life because it's one of my favorites, one of my brother's favorites too, right? Mm-hmm. So we watched it together all the time and we had a lot of jokes about it and stuff. But yeah, I always was able to see that, okay, even though they're presenting this guy as a kind of, like you said, a charming, nice guy, he reveals himself to have a darkness in him. And that's what I love about this movie, actually. Yeah. It, like some of the conversations they have when they're having fights are very reminiscent of anybody's fights, right?
It's very naturalistic writing and filmmaking.
But the way she says she says he goes, she told me to take her to a porn movie. She'd never seen one. And when he come out, he goes, you're better looking than she is. And she goes, oh, let's just stop it. Like, I'm not better looking. Every time we go anywhere, I go to a restaurant, I'm better than the chef. She goes, I can't live up to this thing you have about me. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's the whole idea, is that maybe this is the kind of guy who just fantasizes some perfection in this other person who can't live up to that standard.
Like,
right?
Let's say at the beginning of the film, he went back to the back office to meet that new staff member, and let's say it was somebody completely different. Yeah, he still might have done the same thing.
It could have been. Yeah,
it didn't matter. It's just at the right place at the right time. He got fixated on this, quirky pixie dream girl, and nothing could sway that.
I totally see that too. Yeah. I mean, I think that everything you're saying is correct. Nonetheless, the interesting thing about the movie is you like him so much all the way through it, right?
Doesn't matter.
Because they're basically, I think the movie is also, it's written by a woman, directed by a woman, right? It's really, they're very interested in how men process, things in this way. They're very interested in revealing something about male control and male desire that even in the nicest of guys is there, right? When he says, I'm going to rape you, when she's actually leaving, it's because he feels that's the only control left to him as a man, right?
Yeah. Every character is extremely complex. Even like 3 seconds. Betty, poor Betty.
We call her Betty Dips.
Poor Betty. That's the other thing too. Like he has an alternative to his obsession with Laura, because a coworker, Betty, is very sweet and clearly really likes him.
Yeah, but she's a dork, right?
She's a dork, but you know what?
Well, he says in his head.
He needs to get over Laura.
He says in his head, he goes, she goes, "Have you got anything for me?" Because that's their work thing. She gives him things. And then he goes, I have nothing for you, Betty. Right? I wish I did, but I don't. Right?
And Griffin Dunn has like 2 seconds, and he's
he produced it. Him and Laurie Metcalf are the producers.
Mark Metcalf, sorry. Yeah. And so he's got a bit part in it. Small. It's brilliant. It is brilliant. It is great. No, I mean,
he goes loaded with calcium for the day.
I think, like I said earlier, I think it would be hard to get this movie made today, because in today's film and consumer behavior in terms of audience expectations, I still feel like a bad guy's a bad guy, a good guy's a good guy, and if they're going to write a character who says some of the darker things that he says, I don't think it would have that enough complexity. I don't think it would be like this movie.
I think you're 100% right, and
know?
I think we're all the
And
worse
we see
for
that
it.
we're absolutely all the worse for it. I mean, and I see this time and again, and in when I go back to say films, seriously strong films made in the 60s and 70s, even by Hollywood.
Right.
I've rewatched, like a couple of months ago, I rewatched Five Easy Pieces, which I always really
good.
liked. I put it on and was like, what the hell is this movie? This is like the greatest. Who wrote this?
Yeah,
This is
amazing
unbelievable.
movie. Yeah.
And again, you've got a main character who's a total, well, in this case, he's a total dick.
He's
And
like a total.
you are crying at the end over what he's going through.
Yeah,
It's like, it's a flawless movie.
it's a pretty flawless movie. Yeah,
But
Karen
anyway-
Black. Oh my God.
Karen Black and yeah.
Yeah.
But no, Chilly Scenes of Winter is fantastic. I mean, it's just.
Well, I'm glad you
beautifully
feel that
done.
way because it's one of those movies that it does have a bit of a cult following, but it's still pretty obscure. Now, the interesting thing about Chilly Scenes of Winter is that it was originally released under another title. Did you know this? You knew this, right? And so the original title of the movie was Head Over Heels, and in that ending, spoiler alert. In that ending of the movie Head Over Heels, Charles gets Laura back at the end, right? Like at the very end, she's in his kitchen and all this stuff. Now, I had never seen Head Over Heels until I heard about it maybe 10 years ago, right? I had no idea. And then, so Chilly Scenes was the only ending I knew. And in the end of Chilly Scenes, he doesn't get her back.
No.
Which I like way better. But it's interesting. You can go find it online.
Have you seen Head Over Heels?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
And it's an inferior film for you. Strictly because of the ending, or
Well, it's interesting because the book ends more like Head Over Heels.
Okay.
But it has a kind of experimental quality, which is like it kind of ends both ways too.
Right.
I think that's interesting. But when he gets her back at the end in Head Over Heels, it ruined it for me.
Yeah.
Like it seemed like I know why they didn't put this in, why they took this out immediately, right?
Yeah.
And you could tell that it was the studios that said, no, you have to have Happy. You have
Yeah.
to, put he has to get her.
And so
'Cause
what
it's very
happened? So I
nihilistic.
guess they knew it didn't work, and then they.
Well, the movie got
redid it?
released and it died.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know what the full story here is, but apparently they took it back, and they cut out the ending and they made a few other changes and they re-released it as Chilly Scenes of Winter, which didn't do much better. Right. This was not a hit. This movie when it came out. It lives on only because of people like me and other fans,
Yeah.
out there who remember this movie.
No, it comes up in conversation once in a while, and in the culture,
Yeah.
it does.
Well, I mean, I would recommend anybody go see this. It's got a lot going on in it. It's a very different kind of era of filmmaking too, which is like, you just don't see movies like this
No.
anymore. Like, now, like there's music under everything, for example. Like there you'll see like full scenes, no music.
Yeah.
And like it's just very involving,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't want to compare it to say Cassavetes, because Cassavetes is much more experimental in many
And raw,
ways, and
yeah.
raw. But it does have a very lived-in feel, like this is happening in front of you.
Exactly.
Not documentary, but just really invisible and incredibly strong filmmaking.
And yet with
on
all
every-
this magic realism in it, which is really well handled, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Because even when if you remember at the very beginning, when he breaks the fourth wall, he does that a few times.
Yep.
And it's completely fine.
Yep.
Like when he says, "This is how I met Laura," like he looks right at the camera,
Mm-hmm.
right? He's talking to his mother on the phone. Those are really amazing because if you think about it, there's a lot of magic realism kind of stuff happening in the movie, but it doesn't become ostentatious like a Fellini movie or something.
Yeah,
right?
or something clumsily handled by a lesser filmmaker.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, no. And I watched it for free on Tubi.
Oh yeah, that's
There's
right.
that.
Yeah. So yeah, it's available. It's definitely
It's
available.
available. I think Criterion has a Blu-ray release.
They did. I think they just released the Chilly Scenes recently. And then my last story, and then we'll move on to your movie. when I once at the festival many years ago, Toronto Film Festival, he came. John Hurt was here with Liv Ullmann, and Sam Waterston, because they had done this very weird fucking movie, weird fucking movie. It was called It was called like Brainwave or something like that. It was just the three of these guys on a beach, like in Sweden or something, talking about like existential crises, and like it was bizarre. It wasn't really a movie, right?
Right.
But he was there, so he was of course standing in the lobby. At the end of it, I went up to him and I said, "I really loved you in Chilly Scenes of Winter." And I remember he just went, "Okay."
Yeah, I bet he gets that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was back when TIFF you could do that.
Yeah.
You can't do that anymore.
No, I know. I know.
You could just walk up to a famous actor and say hi. And
yeah,
say hi
I
back.
did that all the time.
Now they're surrounded by people, and the staff are preventing you from, it's crazy.
I know.
It's a whole different thing.
It's crazy. Anyway, that's Chilly Scenes.
Yeah, highly
And Mary Beth Hurt, who we just lost.
Yeah.
A fantastic actress and really interesting human being, married to first William Hurt, thus the Mary Beth Hurt. And apparently very abusive relationship. We won't get into that now, and then she was married to Paul Schrader, the director, for a number of years. And she was an interesting person because she was like from that New York scene, but she was never that interested in like being like a big star.
No.
She just wanted to do she liked to thread small things into her career and do those, and she always did them so
always
well.
Interesting.
Because like the other movie people should watch with her is World According to Garp, which is we have to do a whole history on something like the World According to Garp,
sure.
I guess,
I haven't seen it in like decades.
Yeah, but you remember how big that book was and how big that movie was, right? Like it was a phenomenon for a while.
Yeah.
That guy John Irving.
It made Robin Williams a big movie star.
Yeah. John Lithgow was the first sort of trans character.
Yeah.
And Glenn Close. Nobody had really seen her before.
That was her first film, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a good one. It's not great, but it's good.
Yeah, I have to rewatch it.
Okay, now on to yours.
Yeah, so the film I picked was made back in 1943. So I'm going to set this up a little bit by talking about a producer named Val Lewton, who is kind of like a proto Roger Corman. He, back in the 40s, RKO Studios was a now vanished Hollywood studio. They had made Citizen Kane, but they wanted to compete against Universal with the horror movies. Like Universal had the Frankenstein and the Mummy and Dracula, and those were all perennial sequels, and they were all making a lot of money.
Right.
And RKO, which was a very low budget studio, wanted to get on in the horror action, so they hired this Val Lewton character to produce these really, really chintzy B movies. They even did it by just giving him lurid film titles.
Yeah.
So they'd say like, "Oh, go make a movie called Cat People," and then he had to make a movie about cat people.
And he made a brilliant
movie. So.
And I Walked with the Zombie. He's the other famous one.
I Walked with the Zombie.
Which sounds like a terrible film, but it's a beautiful movie, actually.
It's amazing. I was thinking about doing that one, but it's pretty well known.
It's pretty well known.
Of course, Cat People is famous. So I recommend those two, both directed by Jacques Tourneur, who is a French filmmaker.
Anyhow,
in 1943, and this movie is pretty much forgotten. I don't know anybody who's seen it.
This was shocking how buried this movie seems to be.
Yeah. It's called The Seventh Victim, and it's directed by Mark Robson, who was part of the RKO stable. He was an editor with Robert Wise on Citizen Kane, and made these B movies, and ended up having a bigger Hollywood career, not distinguished, but like Peyton Place and stuff like that.
Peyton Place.
So
that was big in this. That was a big controversy because of there was the first time that you were really showing like young love, I guess, right? Yeah.
So
young all of lust.
That's true.
Yeah.
So like Roger Corman, these B level horror movies that came out of RKO in the 40s, they had Val Lewton's stamp more than anybody else. Yeah. Although I'd argue Jacques Tourneur, who was an incredible filmmaker,
Jacques Tourneur, even without Val Lewton, was still good. Yeah.
Out of the Past, which is my favorite film noir of all time.
What are you talking about? It was best. One of the best.
It is
of all
the
time.
best.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's the best.
It is the best.
What a great wow. Anywho's, so in The Seventh Victim, quick setup. A teenage girl at a boarding school is called into the office, and she's played by Kim Hunter, who was in Streetcar Named Desire.
Yeah, she's Stella.
Yeah. And she's told that tuition hasn't been paid by her guardian for like 6 months, and her guardian is her older sister, Jacqueline. And because she's vanished.
She's disappeared.
Say. So poor teenage Kim Hunter journeys to New York City to try to find her. Ends up in Greenwich Village, and the 1943 Greenwich Village is so cool.
It's such a cool looking movie, I have to say.
Yeah. And so a bunch of stuff happens. She goes to the cosmetics company that her older sister owned with a partner, and she's still vanished, and she's sold the other half to the partner, and it's a very weird dynamic. It seems very,
well,
you start seeing some undercurrents of something nefarious right from the get-go.
Yeah.
In fact, you even start seeing it at the school, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. Turns out Jacqueline was part of a satanic cult.
Yes, the Paladins.
Yeah. And Jacqueline is in hiding because she confessed to her psychiatrist, who was pretty creepy, about the cult. And the rule of the cult is that, or the coven is that, if you tell any outsiders about it, you have to die.
But they also can't kill you
because they're pacifists.
So they have to just coerce you into drinking this poison, and
they have to convince you to commit suicide.
Yeah.
And there's an incredible image early in the film when they find Jacqueline's apartment, which is above an Italian restaurant called Dante's.
There's a lot of Dante in this.
Yeah. And they open the door, and there's nothing in the apartment except for a chair and a noose.
Yeah.
So chilling.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I watched this movie I'll never forget watching it for the first time, like gobsmacked at how incredible this film was.
When did you see it? How old were you?
Oh, it wasn't that long. Like probably 10 years ago.
Okay.
I'd never heard of it before. It was part of the Val Lewton box set I bought of DVDs, and I just decided to go through them. And here's one I've never heard of. So blah blah blah. What's interesting about it for me is how prescient it is with later films, even though, it didn't do very well and was little seen. It clearly influenced Alfred Hitchcock.
Oh, when I watched it last night, and I was watching it with Ishmael, and we were both like, "Holy fuck!" Like, that's right out of like the scene,
right out of Psycho.
Yeah, the Psycho scene when you see the shadow of Norman Bates's quote unquote mother coming in, and she's in the shower, and you see the shadow through the shower curtain. That's from this movie.
Yeah,
100%. Like there's no murder, but
it's chilling because it's
very chilling. Yeah.
Because it's the woman who had owned the salon or the cosmetics company.
Yeah, the
telling her to
Goth
get the hell out of town.
And she has the same. Yeah, it's like there's a logo. That's
Well, that's the other thing. This is probably one of the most nihilistic films I've ever seen, with the bleakest ending of any Hollywood horror. Like,
it's almost kind of like absurd. Like it's absurdist in the sense that it's like so nihilistic that I can see punkers in the 70s really enjoying something, because
or like college campus screenings.
Yeah, you can imagine. Like, really, she's like, she literally comes out and says, "I've always wanted to die." Yeah. Right? That's her line. And it's like, so, I mean, this, do you want to continue more things and then we'll get into an analysis kind of thing?
Well, I don't want to give away too much of the plot because I want everyone to please seek out. I'm assuming nobody's seen this film because it is so under the radar.
Yeah.
So I don't want to give away too much. But the other big thing that it influenced for me was Rosemary's Baby, because this coven or whatever, they're all older.
Yeah.
They're all wealthy. Just like, remember in Rosemary's Baby when they meet them all and they're all these old people going, Hail Satan.
Yeah.
So
Ruth Gordon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And there's also there's a lot of homoerotic gay undertones throughout the entire film.
Yeah, there's
that
definitely
are just really signaling.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, you could read the whole movie.
The whole movie.
As a sort of a nascent queer narrative, you know.
Oh, I'm sure this film has been talked about in queer
I'm
narrative, yeah.
100% sure
Yeah.
it's big in the queer, especially
Yeah.
underground communities.
I mean,
and
clearly
stuff, right?
Jacqueline, it seems that she must have had a relationship with her business partner. And remember the staff member at
Her hairdresser.
the hairdresser
Yeah.
keeps talking glowingly about her. And then there's this incredible scene halfway through the film when they're trying to convince Jacqueline to commit suicide and drink this poison.
It's such a creepy scene.
I know.
Yeah,
and
it's really scary.
then the same girl who's clearly part of the coven stops her from doing
She
it.
actually knocks the glass out of her hand, and then she says, "I can't." And she says, basically professes her love for her, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
not in so many words, but more in emotions and stuff. And
Yeah.
it looks like there's a kind of sexual thing going on.
Yeah, I mean,
there.
it's Greenwich Village, and then this is all happening in this like parlor with antique furniture, and
yeah,
it's a lot of gay coding going on.
yeah. And there's a lot of gay coding, and there's a lot of like beatnik coding, because you have the poet character, right? And it's a weird. Okay, I'm going to say the one thing I'll say about this movie for people who are just looking for a kind of cheesy, fun movie. This is not that movie. It's fun and for sure, but it's also not a linear movie. Things don't really add up.
Well, it's told in linear time, but there's a lot that doesn't add up.
Well,
apparently they cut out a lot.
Things just kind of like pop up and never really, like, for example, you have Kim Hunter looking for her sister, okay, and she comes to New York, and the first person she meets is the Beaver's dad, Hugh Beaumont, right? Who basically tells her that he's in love with her sister, and he's looking for her too. And so this character keeps reappearing in the movie, and he's got some sinister stuff going on. But then all of a sudden, he's in love with the Kim Hunter character, and you're like, when did that happen? Because it sort of comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Where like you don't see them romancing.
Yeah.
You just take it for granted that okay. So it's almost like he's like the only real people in it are her and her sister. The rest of the characters seem like I don't know,
shadows. They're like
shadows or like spirits or something. Yeah.
The poet guy seems to like her, but he's
that's what I mean. Like everybody's a kind of possibility for her, right? And then she doesn't choose the poet who's the right guy.
What else is really weird that you might not have realized is the psychiatrist character played by Jack Conway, who is George Sanders' brother.
Of course.
Which you can tell.
That's what I thought was George Sanders. Okay, right.
But that character was in Cat People. And he was killed at the end of Cat People.
Right.
That's
Wait a
the
minute.
exact same character and the same
guy?
actor.
Oh, I didn't
but
realize
it's the same
that.
name.
Wow.
I know. It's crazy. So how does that work?
Yeah.
So does that mean in Cat People he didn't die? So then was it a hallucination? Because that's the thing at Cat People.
It seems more like it might be some kind of continuity of a type that they want to use over and over again, right?
Yeah. That
this particular guy, it's like Dr. Phibes. There was a couple of movies like that, right?
But in terms of like it's very fragmented. So even I don't know if you remember this, but at the very beginning of the movie, when the principal tells Kim Hunter, you're going to get kicked out because you didn't pay the tuition, she leaves, and then this assistant headmistress or whatever comes following her and says,
"Don't ever
whatever you do, don't come back." And none of that is ever brought up again.
Right.
And it makes you wonder, like, how far does this cult stretch?
Well, that's right. That's the underlying thing, because you realize
the school looks very Gothic.
Yeah, and it has that stained glass John Donne
death
about death. Yeah, welcoming death. It's like and it's got a very rigid kind of weird feeling to it, and it put me in the mind of a lot of other movies. Actually, the thing I would say about this one is it's absolutely beautiful looking. Like, it's got that beautiful film noir. It's kind of like both a film noir and a B film horror film, right?
So that's the thing when I was kind of binging through all the Val Lewton productions, all of them are as much film noir as horror. Though the express genre was like, this is a horror movie.
Well, but
they're all very film noir.
Yeah, they are.
Every way.
They have this gothic and film noir feeling to it. Like, like I Walked with a Zombie is like Wide Sargasso Sea, right? It's like Jane Eyre.
Yeah, it is
right.
Jane Eyre.
It's basically
Exactly.
So you have this gothic influence, but yeah, Luton and Tournier, especially those two. But on this one, it's Mark Robson. But yeah, Val Luton was the only producer who had an auteurist kind of bent to his producing.
Well, like I said, I think you could include Roger Corman in that as well.
You
to
could,
a certain degree.
But the thing is, I would say the one difference between Corman and Luton is Luton had an artistic. He changed the medium in many ways. Like all the movies you think about now, like the Hereditaries and what they call the elevated horror and the kind of spiritual horror or the poetic horror movie, that all comes from Val Luton.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting is how these films flew under the radar. I mean, Cat People was a big hit, and that kept all the rest of them going.
Yeah, and then there was an 80s remake, which was also kind of a big hit, also by Paul Schrader. Interesting.
There you go. But the Gothic thing is really strong in two other Val Luton productions, which you probably haven't seen. Bedlam with Boris Karloff. I think they both have Boris Karloff. Bedlam and Isle of the Dead.
Oh,
those are both good.
Yeah, I haven't seen either of those, but I've heard of Isle of the Dead before, and I've heard of there's a few others by them that I've heard are really amazing that I haven't had a chance to see.
Well, you got to see Curse of the Cat People.
Yeah, that's the second one. Yeah,
bizarre. That is a surreal dreamscape kind of movie.
Well,
very Lynchian.
Well, that's the thing. People if you're going to come out of anything with all of this, is definitely you could watch all of Val Luton. Jacques Tournier movies, but they're all good, and they all have that same amazing atmosphere, right? Which is hard to know how they got it, but it is that mixing of genres that people weren't really doing.
No,
they were, I think, the first ones to kind of do that. Like, okay, let's make it look film noir, but make it look German expression.
And it's probably very budget conscious too, right? I mean, when you shoot in the dark, it's easier to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right in Cat People, you can't show her turning into a cat. So.
No, but but how
really,
about that really great movie.
Jacqueline's hair. Jacqueline is such a crazy.
She's a proto goth for sure.
Proto goth, yeah.
And she's like a proto. Like a proto punk, and like definitely she looks extremely modern. When we were watching it, Ishmael said, "Wow, what?" Like, he was even like, "She's such a goth,"
Yeah,
and it's like
very 80s feel.
Yeah, like
and her mannerisms and being.
And she's very sexy and beautiful, right? But she's almost a Walking Dead, right?
Yeah.
And there's that. There is.
She says, like you said, I wanted to die my whole life.
Yeah. Well, there's that whole thing about, I mean, out of every movie I've seen this year, this is the most Freudian out of all of them, right?
Yeah.
But there is that. It reminded me a lot of that movie, Sisters, just in the sense that like you have the good twin and the bad twin, right? And apparently they were cut off. They were Siamese twins, and then one is like doing this evil, and the other one is the good one, right? And I think that's kind of an interesting trope, because part of me thinks maybe there is no sister, right? Maybe this is all Kim Hunter,
That's
like,
interesting.
Yeah, because it's like her. The real story is about her finding a guy. It's like funny. She's looking for her sister, but like ultimately, it's like three different suitors.
Although we never know how it ends up with her and her suitors. But
she chooses Hugh Beaumont, right?
I guess so. Yeah.
Which is the blandest.
Yeah. But it's interesting. You got me really thinking about the idea that it's all Kim Hunter. So remember the scene where she's got the private detective?
Yeah.
And he goes down the hallway.
Yeah.
And then he's killed, but you never see who kills him.
Yeah. And they say it was Jacqueline. That's the part that reminded me of Sisters.
Right.
Because remember, she comes out and stabs the guy, and she's under the covers, right?
That's a great scene in that.
Oh,
Sisters.
so scary.
That's the whole split screen stuff. It's like, freaks you out.
What a great movie. I love that movie. It is a great movie. Yeah, and it also reminded me of, there was another one that I really thought of. Well, you said like Rosemary's Baby for sure. Psycho for sure. David Lynch.
Oh yeah,
definitely. There's traces of Mulholland Drive and a lot of stuff that.
Yeah, the innocent girl going into the dark underbelly of the city.
Yeah, this is like an interesting Gothic tale, right? About women and their doubles and, their foes and all that kind of stuff, right? And it's really about this kind of burgeoning young woman on the verge of becoming a woman. And, so it's interesting how it's playing with that, but then it's also playing with that idea that, she may not be looking for a man, right? She may not be looking for a man. It's great. The other movie that came to mind for me was Suspiria.
Oh yeah,
because she goes to the dance school, right?
Right.
And there's a missing. I don't know if it's not her sister, but it's like a missing girl, right?
Yeah.
So that whole idea of going and then trying to.
I hadn't thought of Suspiria, which is also massive gay coding, but yeah.
It is, yeah.
I mean, it's not even coding at that point.
Yeah, Giallo. I want to make a Giallo movie. That's my big ambition.
Oh, you totally should.
I want to. Like that. I think people don't understand how amazing Giallo is. I know. I showed totally off topic, but a friend of mine who's a big horror movie fan, but he likes modern horror movies. He doesn't watch a lot of old movies. Right.
And he had never seen Deep Red, which is my favorite Giallo.
I love Deep Red, yeah.
And he was like, I don't want to watch it. And I'm like, no, you got to watch it. He goes, it's old. I don't feel like subtitles. And I put it on, and he was completely like blown away.
It's such a great movie.
Yeah.
I mean, this movie had all of those elements in it. The great thing about you could get into a whole thing, about like the different, like we could go into a whole critique about like, who Kim Hunter is, and who, what is this story about these two sisters all about, right? There's a lot of fairy tale, a lot of like mythic stuff going on.
Yeah.
It's got a lot going on. And the devil worship of stuff, even that, the guy says, well, these are a particular group he mentions the historical name, which is paladins or something.
Paladins, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, and those guys, the great thing about the cult is that, like you said, you realize in retrospect that, probably everybody that you've seen in positions of authority or in her life have been a part of it, right? Mm-hmm. But the thing is about this group is, like you said, they're so banal, right?
They're
like they're sort of powerless, kind of simpy, they're not scary at all, right?
No, and they're most movies with satanic cults and such, you start seeing their ceremonies, or the devil shows up, or there's some kind of chanting, or even Rosemary's Baby has all that.
Yeah.
But in this one, they're just a bunch of old people sitting around.
Yeah. They could be, the devil worship or part of it is interesting because it's like, well, this could be any like political group or underground group that's a racist group or KKK. It could be anything, right? But the Satanist thing
Christmas
of it,
Adventurers Club.
Yeah. Well, the Satanist thing is also very much tied to the Greenwich Village thing, to the queer thing, right? It's like if you think about the metaphor of you told people about us, you have to kill yourself now. It's like saying you came out of the closet and the punishment is death by our society, right?
Yeah.
In those days, that's what it was. So that's the real through line of the queer story, right? You can't come out. And so that explains why Kim Hunter chooses the worst guy possible for her. Because he's the most like straightforward, like, clean cut guy.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I am so glad you like this movie.
Oh, I loved it. It's a masterpiece.
It totally is.
Yeah.
But I guess that's it.
I guess that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Seventh Victim is a little harder to find.
Now I found it on, I'm not telling anybody to do this, but I found it on Daily Motion, which if you just search up Seventh Victim, The Seventh Victim, put in where to stream, it comes up, and it's a legit.
Okay, well, if it's
legit, you can watch it. Like there's a couple of audio ads that kind of interrupt it.
So it's a AVOD thing, yeah.
Yeah, but
that's fine.
But it's not overly done. So and it's not a long movie. So
it's very short. It's like less than 70 minutes, and it's Criterion also did Criterion did a Blu-ray release. They did a double feature on a set of this film and I Walked with a Zombie, which is also amazing.
Yeah, must watch.
So buy the DVD, Blu-ray, whatever, watch them both. Because my Val Lewton box set is out of print, so good luck finding it. But
my Val Lewton is very sore. I know.
I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
guess we've been sitting too long.
Yeah.
You need some cream
my
on your
Valium.
Valium.
Woo!
And with that, folks.
No, we got to end on a different joke. That joke was
Really?
poop. Yeah, let's start.
Literally.
Yeah, literally about poop. Yeah.
Okay, come up with a better joke, is it?
I can't just come up with a better joke.
Dance, monkey, dance.
Well, actually, okay, I'm going to dance.
I'm glad this is audio only. And folks, I will see you out there in the dark.
Just you, eh? That's even.
We
creepy.
will.
That's even creepier.
We will. Sorry.
You're just like.
I'm trying to be inclusive.
You're like Charles in Chilly Scenes of Winter. You're like a stock. All right.